Welcome to Money Conversations with KJ. KJ is a lifelong entrepreneur who's made a lot of money, lost a lot of money, and found his way back again. If you're looking for a sterile how-to, you're in the wrong place. KJ and his guests will walk you through real-life situations told by the people who live them, and they are as messy as they are inspiring. Each episode will offer lessons learned, advice on how to replicate successes and avoid pitfalls, and a new perspective to power your financial literacy. Far from a one-size-fits-all, this podcast can help you build a roadmap to your personal promised land. Milk and honey for some, whiskey and steak for others, and remind you that you're not alone on this journey.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm super excited today. I've got a good friend of mine that's going to join us today from Denver, Mr. Brian Zimmerman. How you doing, Brian?
Hey, I'm doing awesome. Thanks for having me on, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Happy to have you. I know that today you're going to bring some really good value. I know part of your experiences, but I'm sure I'm going to learn some things in this conversation, and the audience, I'm sure, will too. So I'm going to give you guys a little feedback on Brian. What I know, first and foremost, when I met him, he's a Marine. He was a Marine, and we'll talk about that for a minute. And his biggest job to date is obviously he's a dad of 3 awesome girls. And other than that, we had the opportunity of working together out across the country here and learned a lot of great things. And that's why I think today you're going to be able to bring some good value because of your experiences, not just as a Marine and his dad, but Brian's an entrepreneur. So I think I want to go shoot down the lane today, Brian, of the mindset of an entrepreneur with money, because it's a total different mindset that of the W-2 earner. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's a different ballgame.
What do you think the biggest difference, because there's going to be listeners out there that are, I think a lot of these listeners are millennials, probably maybe 20 to 40, right? And if they're thinking about being an entrepreneur, what kind of mindset do you think they need to have going into being an entrepreneur with money?
Well, I think it's always, for me, my lessons over the last 15 years of entrepreneurship, and just to kind of go just a background. See, I started my entrepreneurial endeavors actually not only at a young age, but really when I was still in the Marine Corps. I had that bug, if you will. In fact, the very first business that I started was part-time when I just got back from Iraq. I had a shoulder injury, shoulder surgery. That I had a little bit of an issue out in Iraq, came back, had that surgery, and I found myself literally not being able to do anything for 6 months. And there was a time when I was in Korea and I was stationed, I was on post one night, and believe it or not, I came across this book on post, on guard duty at night. I kid you not. I think I still have it too, but it was investing or something, investing for dummies or it's one of those dummy series books.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
And I read it, and I remember reading a section, and I don't know, I'm 19 years old at this time, and I'm reading this section about mutual funds, and it talked about the compounding interest of mutual funds, and if you invest this in this many years, right? And I'm thinking, this is interesting. And so that kind of got my mind wrapping. And so from that day forward, I started looking at ways to make more money than I was earning on the day job. Day job at the time was the Marine Corps, obviously. So I got involved in some different things, but the very first business, I actually purchased a course off of an infomercial about 2:00 in the morning one night. It was a how to flip real estate notes. And so that was my first journey. I ended up buying that program and then investing in some mentorship after that. Did not flip any notes, but learned a lot, and that kind of started the whole process.
That's real interesting because so you're 19 and you're doing that, recognizing. So like you said, you had the bug of thinking, man, what am I going to do? Talk to me about, share with the audience that may be out there, before you joined the Marines and went out there and then had this, come across your plate, and that was probably the beginning of your entrepreneurship lifestyle. What were the kind of money lessons that you had or didn't have, and where did they come from?
Well, a few things. So the first question that you asked was the money mindset, or the entrepreneurial mindset. And where I was going with that is kind of my background, and then we'll get to that question too, because I'm a little bit all over the place,
Okay.
Kevin. But it comes down to discipline. I think that's been one of the biggest lessons, and the difference between, say, a 1099, or excuse me, a W-2 and an entrepreneur is that structure and that discipline. There's a completely different. When you're on your own, it can be lonely at times, especially when you're starting a business. You not only have to find structure in with what it is that you're doing. See, in the Marine Corps, or with a lot of jobs, especially the military, is my day was very structured. I was told where to be. I was told what to do. Heck, I was told pretty much what I could eat at certain, or when I could eat during the day, right? And so going into entrepreneurship, you're on your own. And so it can be a very lonely place. Not only that, but now you're also having to deal with the mindset and the aspect between, not everybody is going to be a big fan of what it is that you're doing. Friends, family members, people around you they could be negative because of their conditioning and their prior experiences. So there's a lot to deal with when the mindset comes, and we can dive more into that. What was your other question, Kevin?
So before you just made the decision to go join, the Marines, and let's say like right out of high school, I mean, what type of financial education did you get, and where did it come from? Or did you have any?
Yeah, I mean, no, none. You see, I kind of grew up where, I mean, I had a paper. I had a paper route when I was 14 years old. We didn't have much money. I was raised by a single dad. My dad raised me and my two sisters. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment. I shared a bedroom with my dad. I watched my dad struggle financially. I heard a lot of the talk around me was, we can't afford that. We can't, money doesn't grow on trees. That's for rich people. So that was the conditioning. And so conditioning plays a big role in how we think, how we act when it comes around to, our time and our money.
I couldn't agree with you more. In that story is probably so much more prevalent out there in America than people realize, whether it's a single dad or a single mom, right? And if you're out there and your parents, they're doing the best they can. They're trying to keep a roof over your head and make sure you can eat, and all just the basic necessities in life. And I often say parents can't teach what parents don't know, and it's not necessarily, their fault 100%. And so you grew up not really learning anything about money except scarcity, right? Scarcity is what you learned. And for a lot of people, it's hard for them to crawl out of that. Again, you and I have experiences of talking with just hundreds and hundreds of people, in seeing that. So it's very relatable in your side. So when you made the decision, like, well, then the way out for you basically was like, I'm joining the Marines, and then the Marines structured you, right? And you're like, man, structure's cool. Man, I want some structure. But then you decided, I want my freedom too, because it was like too much structure. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Super cool. Awesome. So then when you got back out of the war, from the war, being a Marine, and did you just stay strictly being an entrepreneur? Did you try to do some sort of a W-2 job? I mean, and then because you learned about the mutual funds and things, and so did you start to develop kind of some goals and game plan with money?
Yeah. So, I struggled for years trying to get businesses to work, and it kind of goes back to your question a little bit ago when it comes to the mindset, because there's that conflict of past conditioning, right? You have the structure, the ability to ask and receive, right? Money. If you grew up in a lifestyle where you had a hard time asking, or you maybe got in trouble for asking, and now you get into entrepreneurship and you're having to ask for money from others. And so it comes down to that dialogue, right? So I struggled with that for many years. I'd start a business, couldn't make it, run myself in a lot of debt, and then have to go work for somebody. I'd make enough money to then go back into business on my own. And this cycle was continually repeating over and over again. And so I had to really figure out for myself, what do I need to do to fix this? Because it became a problem. It became a pattern.
But you know what? I think in that story, and I think the good takeaway from the guys out there, the people listening, would be, one, persistence. You didn't give up. You're like, you know what? That saying, failures are only failure if you actually quit, right? And you didn't quit. You're like, these are learning stepping stones for me. I'm learning along the way, and I know personally that you've learned a lot, and you continue to learn, as we all should. We should never stop learning when it has to become in our lives, whether it's money or relationships. So I think the big takeaway there is, Brian's just been persistent. Don't beat yourself up. I'm sure because again, I've had my share of failures also, and I beat myself up for like 10 minutes. That's it. But I know some people can wallow in that when you like have these failures that you put so much time and energy in, and you're like, crap, it didn't work. What do I do next? Screw it. I'm just going to get a job, right? Well, that's cool. So talk to me about, you're a dad, and I know your girls are they're young, but they're not that young. To what are you doing because of the way you were brought up? What are you doing different with them? And are you teaching them at all? Share with the audience their ages, and if you are or are not yet, or the plan you have on teaching them any type of financial.
Yeah, so definitely I'm working on a couple things. I have a 13-year-old son. He'll be 14 here in 3 weeks.
Wow.
I have a 8-year-old daughter who will be 9 in like 4 weeks. So figure this all out, okay?
Wow.
And I have a 6-year-old daughter that will be 7 in 4 weeks.
What?
So all of our kids' birthdays are within a week of each other.
Oh my gosh.
So it's pretty wild. But yeah.
That's cool.
So there's a couple things I'm doing. So my son has been working part-time for about a year. He works in a little part-time business that him and I started. This little part-time business does about $3,200 gross a month. And so it takes about 5 hours a week of his time to do. So pretty profitable.
Right.
It's a little janitorial business.
Okay.
Picking up trash out of HOA communities.
Okay.
Right. And so I helped him start that. He's been helping me. I do help him as well. So he gets to focus and work on a couple things. And one, how to put trash cans. You believe it or not, right? Cutting corners is little things. Little things is putting trash bags properly inside of a trash
container.
Trash can.
Yep.
Container. So they don't fall out or run into issues where people start putting a lot of stuff and the back comes out. Now you're having to dig it out with hands. So little things like that he's had to overcome, or I catch him kind of cutting corners, right? So we're working on attention to detail with our work and what it is that we're doing. He does get paid. When he does get paid, what I teach him specifically is we have I kind of got this from the Dave Ramsey stuff, is you have the savings envelope, you have the we call it a couple things. I call it, one, he has an envelope where he puts 50% of his money in there, and he can use that money for whatever within reason.
Right.
He's getting a teenage boy, so we got to kind of check. All right, so he uses that money for that. He has a giving container, so 10% of that will go to giving, and then the other 40% goes to wealth accumulation. And his goal is to take that envelope and then take that money to go make money with it.
So
that's how I have him set up.
So that's budgeting, right? Which is awesome, because I think most people get in trouble because they don't budget, right? They just grab a check, and then the first thing that comes to mind that they want to spend their money on. And you know, I've always taught my kids the difference between wants and needs, and you know, take care of your needs before you take care of your wants, I always say. So that's awesome at 14 that you're teaching him this lesson about budgeting, because that will really shape his mindset around money. Mm-hmm. That money, you make money for a purpose, right? And multiple purposes. Right. And the fact that you did that, I think he won't really probably reap the rewards, the benefits of that until he's probably in his 20s sometime, and he'll look back like, man, I didn't even know that was the lesson my dad was teaching me. You know what I mean? It'll just be ingrained. So that's super cool. And Unfortunately, we know that a lot of parents don't do that, but that's a great lesson. So I hope anybody out there with some young kids that, what do I do? How do I teach them without, getting too complicated? That's a first basic great lesson is budgeting. Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. So I think another thing, a part of that is leadership, delegation, teaching that at a young age, because that also contributes obviously to the money making aspect of life as well. Being able to delegate and being able to start to learn to lead without being necessarily a dictator. So one of his chores is to take out the trash every week, right? And so now his 8-year-old sister helps him out with that. And so I want him to kind of guide that situation without him yelling at her, without them getting in a fight, which happens all the time, right? Because she's yelling at him. So I'm trying to get them to work together and try to get him to communicate in a way to her that doesn't cause conflict, but able to work it out and be able to delegate roles as well as far as he's doing it. So I think that's important as well. You start teaching that at a young age.
For sure. I mean, delegating that's how you're teaching a leader, right? Because that's what leaders do is they delegate. You can't do everything, and you and I both know. I mean, the sooner I could delegate anything, I definitely do that. Like right now, I'm trying to delegate the editing of all my podcast stuff because I just don't like doing it, But
right.
When you delegate, typically that costs money. So that's cool. So talk to me about for you, I mean, from where you came from, now I want to go down the road a little bit of tradition, right? Because I think a lot of people across America are where they are just based on tradition. You and I have been all over this country, and the 4 different corners of this country are really, to me, 4 different planets with the tradition of what people, how they act and think with their time and their money. I think we all want to always do better for our kids than what was for us at whatever level that may be, right? Whether it was you grew up really in poverty or middle class or even wealthy, it doesn't matter. You always want to strive to do better. So with tradition, and you're building that now in your son, so he'll never experience, the life that you grew up in. What other types of traditions do you think you're teaching your kids and they'll take as they become young adults?
Well, I think I want to teach how to budget properly. That's what we're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then also leadership. And I want them to start taking some of those leadership traits and aspects as they grow. So going back to the business, right? So what I'm doing right now, to where when he turns 16 and he has the ability to drive, he'll be able to completely turn, I'll hand this entire little side hustle off to him. Now, he'll be able to, because he's already been training. He's training right now. He doesn't realize what I'm doing. But when he turns 16, because there's enough profit there, hopefully still, to where then he can just hire it out. And then now he can reap the rewards of having other people and have his money making money at 16, 17 years old. So tradition wise, right, that wasn't taught to me. Although my dad taught me great work habit. I mean, my dad was a plumber. And so I used to help my dad plumb at a young age. And so my dad did teach me a lot of these lessons, which I guess now that I'm talking about it, it's kind of what I'm doing here with him too. So very valuable lessons when it comes to hard work and, really working.
I think so. I mean, your kids obviously all of our kids always see the type of work habit that your parents have, and I think they try to emulate. My kids all have extremely great work ethic. They're great at their positions, what they do, and the more we can teach that, the better. Unfortunately, we know across America, there's a lot of sense, I think, when in the poverty type level, that you get so much assistance that it becomes, they think they're entitled, right? And I think guys like you and me, our parents, we saw them, struggle at whatever times in life, and you just got to go out there and get after it. You got to go work, and then you got to do the right things with your money.
Yep.
Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think it starts, especially since we're on the topic of kind of what we're talking about, I think the sooner we can get our kids doing that and working past that anxiety and issues, like my 8-year-old, for example. If I have her do something, she'll throw a fit. But my 6-year-old, she'll do whatever. She'll be game to help with whatever. But my 8-year-old, for some reason, has, when it comes to picking up or doing something, it's going to turn into a battle. So it's like being able to push her through that barrier to get her past that, to know it's like, listen, you got to work, you got to do something.
You got to do. But that's okay, because, when you have siblings like that, I have 4 kids. I'm one of 4. And there'll be a time when there's just little sibling rivalry, like I can do more than you kind of thing on different levels, whether it's money, sports, food, whatever. I mean, there's always that out there. And so the youngest one's always like, no, don't leave me behind kind of thing, and that's my youngest one. The age gap between my youngest and my third is 11 years. So my first 3 kids are all adults while I was still raising the youngest one. But she just strived to be an adult at such an early age. Like I want to keep up with them, which is really cool. Another thing that I see out there, and you see it, we both saw it again, talking with so many people, is investing, right? I think a lot of people have the mindset on investing of, I'll do that when I get money, right? Instead of, if you listen to like a Warren Buffett saying, if you don't learn how to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die, period.
Yeah.
Right? And so learning
now,
the lesson you taught your son on how to, the envelope, one of it is for investing, so that he'll grow up. That's normal to him, right? And 10 years from now, it's normal for whatever he's out there making, a piece of it will go to investing. As to, we hear a lot of stories, well, we grew up in a impoverished family. We couldn't invest. And you and I both know that that's not how it starts, right? I mean, we have to learn how to pay ourselves first before we go pay our bills, right? So elaborate some of the lessons that you learned once you were in the Marines, got out of the Marines, about paying yourself first.
Yeah, see, I learned the hard way. I mean, it took me a long time to figure that out. And, I think the biggest thing is, first of all, right, is taxes and other obligation. I think that's what's nice about being an entrepreneur. It allows you to really pay yourself first. A W-2 situation, Uncle Sam's you're going to pay taxes before you see that. You may pay your medical before you see anything. It becomes very difficult. Mm-hmm. I think what's nice about free enterprise is you can actually flip the script on that. So I'm not a attorney or tax advisor or anything like that, but there's definitely certain things that you can do, and certain tax professionals that you could reach out to. When you're an entrepreneur, they can tell you. So going back to your question, what's nice is that there's different strategies that you can utilize when the money comes in, to then put your money in places where your money can now make money, or you can go take that money to go invest in money, and you pay yourself first, then you pay all your costs, all your expenses, right? And then taxes get paid.
Exactly. And like you said, I think it's a mindset, if you're a W-2 earner, which most people are, that, they've already taken XYZ. I already put money in my 401k. And I think it's,
right. That too. Yeah.
And I think that for people's mindset that, I invest, I have a 401k, not understanding the reality of what the 401k was meant to be. And the 401k was never meant to be your total retirement. But I think it's a big misconception out there everywhere that the 401k, that is my retirement plan, because you're going to fall short. If that's your retirement plan, you're going to fall short, right? And very few people can accumulate enough money in the 401k to retire from. One of the stats I was just reading the other day, today, 2020 in America, to be officially to retire in America correctly, they say you need $2.4 million, which would give you an annual revenue return off that money of $100,000, about an $8,000 a month lifestyle, which is pretty darn good. That's a nice lifestyle, $8,000 a month. Would you agree?
Yeah, especially if everything's paid off.
Exactly. But it would literally take a lifetime of a high earning individual to reach $2.4 million. Would you agree to that?
100%. But it's scary. And you know why it gets scary, because if all of your eggs are in that type of that basket, retirement basket, Something happens to the stock market, you're done. See, the pension days are gone for the most part. Very few pensions are out there where that would be people's, break fall or whatever. Like, oh, I still got my pension. I'm going to get my pension. I'm going to stay here for 20, 30 years. I'm going to get my pension. We don't really see that too much anymore. And that's why employers went to the 401k, right? Not only is it more advantage, it's got their advantages for the business owner, but they don't assume all that risk for the long-term perspective of someone's life, like a pension would.
Right. And that's why I like to teach in my class the tools that are available out there for us, right? I'm not a financial advisor. I'm in the middle of getting to be a certified financial coach, which just means let me just show you the path and you decide what you want to do, right? I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money. I'm not that expert. But I think too many people out there don't understand all the options and the tools that are available to us that we can use, that all the wealthy people use, right? Like not just an IRA, but a Roth IRA, right? How to make tax-free money later in life, which is critical because we don't know what the future tax code is going to be all about. Heck, if you want to really think about it, this country's $30 trillion in debt. Where do you think they're going to get all that money? They're going to go to the people, right? They're going to tax us. So anything that we can do to earn tax-free money is great. Tax-deferred, I'm not a fan of, but you need to diversify, and everybody out there, that's why don't lean on one bucket of the 401k. Don't lean on that bucket because like Brian said, the economy, it has its cycles up and down, and depending on when the cycle either goes up or down and how old you are, we know in '08, a high percentage of people, it was like 30 or 40%, retirements got canceled. They're like, oh, I can't retire now when '08 debacle happened. I know. And so here we are riding this big wave and everybody talking about, we're due for another crash and, there's a difference of opinions. It is what it is. Don't worry about it, especially if you're young. You got to ride the wave. You got to be investing for the long term, right?
Right.
So you and I both learned those lessons. We know those lessons. What type of advice would you give, I don't know, someone in their maybe late 20s, early 30s, if they're like, you know what, this whole job thing, I keep seeing all these young entrepreneurs making all this money online. Maybe I need to go down that road. What should somebody understand if they think they want to go down the entrepreneur path?
Yeah, so I think right now, more than ever, this is from my personal experience, is you have to be focused. It's very easy to get distracted and go off into so many directions or listen to too many people. And so one is to stay focused. Two is to learn a skill, get really good at a skill set, specifically marketing, sales, whatever it is that we're going to do. What is that skill set and what can you really master and spend a ton of time and energy focusing on that one skill set? So it kind of goes back into focus as well. And then lastly, surround yourself with people who have been where you're looking to go. So this way you can get mentorship and guidance from somebody who's already been and maybe has life lessons doing what it is that you're trying to do.
Great. Like you're saying, like never be the smartest guy in the room, right? Otherwise you're in the wrong room. Go to the next room. Learning a skill is something like it triggered my mind thinking. I used to listen to, and I know you have too, Jim Rohn, who taught that, right? How much value can you bring to a situation? And your value is whatever expertise that you have. And there's lots of them out there. And in today's world, we're globally connected. It's no longer that if you're an entrepreneur, that you're an entrepreneur in your own backyard, your own city, right? I mean, you could serve so many people. It's crazy. But that's today's, probably more so me than you, when I was in my late teens and in my 20s, that I couldn't leverage technology like the kids do today. So the opportunities they have today are immense. Right. I mean, immense. And just learn one of those skill sets that Brian's described. Salespeople make the most money on the planet, period. Technology, there's so many different levels, roads you can go down there and learn some sort of a skill set and give some value and get paid pretty good money for it. So I don't worry so much about when they talk about jobs. They never talk about there's more millionaires made every day in this country in the last 5 years than there has been like in the previous 50. So There's so much money because we're interconnected globally with technology. And they never want to put that into the equation when you listen about the unemployment rate. Well, technically, an entrepreneur is not classified as employed, so that means he's unemployed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, you're either employed or you're not. But unless you want, until you actually go and get a business license and be a business, and now you're counted as business and you're creating employees. But a lot of entrepreneurs in the beginning, they're like ghosts. They're ghost people making a lot of money, right? So the opportunities are out there for you guys. And this goes, though, Brian, you and I have talked to a lot of people. I mean, you could be 50, 60, whatever years old. And hey, someone young took your job. So what? Do your fingers work? Your mind didn't go away. Just jump on the bandwagon with these young entrepreneurs and go get you some out there in the world and using technology. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is definitely one vehicle. There's a lot of vehicles that you could go about doing it. You got to just do it, right? Stop thinking about doing it and just start taking action and going out there. And other than that, keep your costs low. Don't go out and spend a ton of money trying to figure this stuff out. That's why I think mentorship is really important, so you can avoid some of the pitfalls, right? Spending money on websites and logos. Everybody wants to look good and stuff, but the reality is figure out how to make a transaction doing what you're doing.
So great point, because being an entrepreneur, there's obviously going to be expenses. It's a business at whatever you do, and you need to reinvest into yourself / your business. But in some cases, and I know quite a few cases actually, where these days to put in, you're getting ready to get in those years where you gotta if your kids are going to go to college, like college is pretty darn expensive, and if some people out there can't afford to go to college and end up going down the path of entrepreneurship, and I know of at least 4 specific cases where they're paralleled in life. One went down the education, and trust me, I 100% believe in education, but if it's not affordable, that there's a lot of self-educating going on online also. People are out there being the entrepreneurs because they've learned whatever skill set and they want to transfer and make a few bucks on it to somebody else. So I think it's a great time to be a young entrepreneur. You have so many options to you. If you want to go the traditional route, you could spend 5, 10, 20, 50, 100, 200,000 a year on education, right? And we know statistically high percentages, like it's above 50, where they'll do 4 years of college, get a degree, and then go do something else in life. I'm like, there's nothing more valuable than my time. I can always make more money. I never get to be 22 again.
Yeah.
Would you? So
it's wild.
Help share, because you're still a fairly young guy. Help share with them out there if they're on the fence of, man, do I stay my school path? I'm getting terrible grades. It's costing a fortune. And my passion is this. What do you do?
Yeah. I go back to a buddy of mine who was very well educated. Went to Oral Roberts University, which is pretty sure it's a pretty credible school. It's a credible school. He's a smart guy. He actually left college his sophomore year to become a DJ.
Wow.
Now here he is, quits Oral Roberts, tells his parents he's leaving to go be a DJ. Could you imagine how that conversation went?
Not good.
He ends up going on and starting the largest DJ company in the United States. At any given weekend, they would have anywhere from 850 to 1,500 weddings, events going every single weekend. That's how he started. He ended up becoming the SBA Entrepreneur of the Year. His name's Clay Clark. He's written several books and stuff, but you can find him online. He now runs a business mentorship and coaching program, but that's beside the point. But my point is he left college to start. So I think you have to figure out what it is that you want to do and what you feel is your best path. But regardless, do what your burning desire tells you to do deep down inside of you. And if you're going to do it, you got to go full out and you got to just do it.
You got to fully commit.
I'm not saying to go quit school either, though. You can look at someone, Russell Brunson, right? Russell Brunson was a college wrestler, got okay grades in college, not really that great, but started a business his last couple of years in college and ended up building this little business while still in college. And then, we both know, he runs a very successful software company now. But he started a business while he was still in school, selling potato gun shooters or something like that.
Hey, listen, when you're young and you need money, whatever you can do to bring the funds in, we do. I've done all kinds of things to make money. When you have kids, you got to keep the roof over their head and feed them. But I'm 58 years old. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 22. I can't even remember my last boss, to be honest with you. I think I remember where I worked because I'm in Vegas, one of the casinos I worked, but I don't really remember much of it. I just remember that clocking in, clocking out wasn't for me. No. I definitely wanted to control my time. And my advice to people that want to be an entrepreneur, own a business, I only have one piece of advice. It's the only piece of advice I ever give when people like, hey, I'm thinking about starting this business. What do you think? I said, well, unless you're ready to eat, sleep, think 24/7, 365 about your business, don't do it. A business is not a 40 or 50 or 60 hour a week deal. It's eat, sleep, think 24/7 until you reach the successes you're striving for. And I've seen a lot of people try and they're like, oh man, this is way too hard. Why am all I do is work. But if you love it, it's not work anyway.
One thing that I've been very lucky, I guess I don't know. It's worked out this way for me in my life is I've worked for some really good entrepreneurs, high class entrepreneurs. So that's another route too. If you're thinking about find out what it is that you want to do and go work inside of that industry with somebody who has ethics, morals, you and I had we know one individual that we've done some stuff with in the past. Phenomenal. I mean, the lessons learned through that, there's a lot of value in that too.
For 100%. Well, shoot, Brian, this is pretty awesome catching up with you again. Always love chatting with you. And I think the takeaway here today, guys, is one, if you've got kids, it's never too early to start teaching them about money and habits and whatnot, right? It's also never too late to teach them about budgeting and getting out there and just doing your passion, what you want to do. And I think as parents, we can agree, we're just going to just support. That's all we can do, right? Is just support.
Yep.
So, hey, thanks for coming out again.
Yeah, 100%, man. Glad to be here. Thank you.
So listen, if you guys like what you heard today, hey, listen, please subscribe to my podcast. There's a lot more coming. I release them out every Wednesday. And if you're on YouTube, hey, smash that like button, subscribe there too, right? We just want to be out here, give stories like you just heard from Brian, and get some takeaways, learn some things, and, drop me a note, ask me some questions. That'd be cool. I'd love to respond to some of you guys and help you any way that I can. So, Brian, again, thanks for coming out. Awesome talking with you, and keep at it with those kids. Hey, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Really enjoyed making all these episodes for you. Remember, we're just having conversations with people's journey with money and the things they did right with it, the things that did wrong with it, and how did they really come about getting their mindset with money. So every episode's different. We all have a good takeaway from them. So do me a favor, hit the like button, smash the like button, and subscribe to my channel, because every episode that I do is going to be different, as all our journeys are different. So you guys take care, and we'll talk to you next week.